I thought it was just a little cracker or something. But what I didn't know, in a way that like changed every second of my life that followed, is that Jesus was real.
Today, we're here to talk with our guest, Sara, about her story into Catholicism. And it is a long and windy road, but it has really great, rich depth to it, and I'm really excited to share. So,
Thanks for having me, and peace be with you. It's my favorite story of all time, best love story ever. Long, windy road. I like to say God needed to whack me over the head with the 2x4 many, many, many times, but he's far kinder than that. I'm an ENFP, so there's all kinds of extroverted intuition going around, but that introverted feeling developed early, and it's hard, by which I mean like a big, big, big part of me. And I trust both of those things. Logic and reason are very important to me, but in support of those values and that exploration. I'm also, like Joyce said, an Enneagram 6, but I have a very strong 5 wing. And I was raised in a very TI dominant household with lots of lawyers. So we got very good at arguing about everything very early on. Um, and just for people who don't necessarily want the entire long, windy version, the highlight is I started off, like Joyce said, I thought I was actually an atheist until I realized sort of the intellectual dishonesty of that, since I couldn't prove God didn't exist. I'd have to say agnostic, leaning towards the atheist side. But other than that, like West Coast ivory tower of intellectualism was kind of the mantra, what we worshiped in our house growing up. And I had some exposure to different religions, but not a lot. It was very whatever we were bumping into, but intellectualism ruled the day. Um, and then I went on a very, very windy journey of life and ended up Catholic, much to my absolute surprise. But once I found God and really encountered Christ in that very personal way, like it was just where do I find the fullest way to experience this? And I found that answer in the Catholic Church. And for my wonderfully large family of Catholic brothers and sisters out there, I am part of the Latin or Roman Rite. And that's what I'll be referring to whenever I say Catholic throughout. I have not forgotten my Eastern Rite and other Rite brothers and sisters. But for the sake of simplicity, I am just going to talk about the Latin Rite today, as practiced in the United States of America, particularly in my diocese, since that's what I've got the experience with. But yeah, it. So I started off, like I said, just very ivory tower of intellectualism, physics, math. My degree's in economics. I've got basically what's a minor slash first year of a graduate program in statistics. And I really do love math. And it was actually in math and statistics combined with just the beauty of Washington State where I actually encountered God for the first time. Like growing up, I very much thought religion was just like this crutch. It was intellectual dishonesty. People just didn't have it in them to be able to deal with life. And they certainly weren't able to deal with the concept of death. And it was weakness and this, that, and the other. But I kept coming back to this question of like, why does math work? Why why do why does physics work? Like how is it that all of this stuff is just universally true and so eloquent and precise? And I couldn't say no to that. Like I couldn't say no to that. And going to university in Seattle, Washington, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. There's gorgeous mountains, beautiful places to go hike. It's easy to get out into nature. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And it's very, very, very hard to be sitting on Puget Sound, looking at the Cascade Mountains, and just surrounded by this amazing natural beauty and not feel something tug at my intuition that there's got to be some plan. Like, I just, my heart never said yes to chaos, to randomness. Like, I believe there's what we think of as random to a certain extent on a small scale, but the randomness just doesn't scale. There's too much consistency. So that was my first breakthrough moment. And I absolutely refuse to call God God. But I did come to this realization that there's got to be some organization that probably requires some intelligent designer. If that's the phrasing you wanted to use, that wasn't the phrasing I wanted to use at the time. Um, and this was the early 90s, so there was a lot of talk about theory of everything, and I won't go into some of the specific holes about that specific theory, but I did think that there was this, I called it the big equation in the sky. Like, there was going to be some grand unifying theory of everything that means way more than what just the people in physics were talking about. And once I kind of accepted that fact that there's more to know than what I'm maybe going to know here, it became very comfortable. And I was very, very cool with this idea of like, I believe in something. I definitely don't believe in this organized religion that people do. Um, but yeah, of course, there's something that makes sense. And there was more meaning in life because of that. Um, and I was happier, and I could appreciate beauty more, and I it was a step forward in terms of happiness. But it definitely wasn't whole, and I still had some things, that I struggle with. I've had some health issues over the years, and I do have some mental health issues as well that I think are very controlled now and weren't as well controlled then. Um, but as I went through college, it was either like during the last couple of years of college, or maybe like a year or two out from college, but kind of around that young 25-ish age. Um, I went on a trip to San Francisco for work. We were holding a conference down there, and it was so bizarre. It was just so bizarre. So we had a day. That's it was The conference ended on Saturday, and then our flights were late in the day on Sunday. So this guy, let's call him John, and I decided to like go wander around San Francisco and see what was what, and fully embracing the West Coast hippie aspect of life at this point, and just like, yeah, we don't need a plan. Let's just go see what we're going to see. And he's like, you don't understand. I'm Catholic. Like, I have to go to Mass today. "Oh, if it is meant to be, it will happen, my friend. We don't need to plan for this. Like, if you believe in your God, trust him. Like, let's go. I don't know how you're going to be closer to God than like looking at the beauty of the Pacific Ocean." And so he's kind of rolling with the punches and still going like, I got to go to Mass today. And looking back at it, like, he started this conversation at like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it got more intense the closer we got to like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. He knew the schedule. Um, so we're on one of those trams in San Francisco, not like the trolley, but just, one of the trams. And we were heading out kind of towards the ocean. And he's really like, I seriously got to find a church. I'm like, God will put one in your path if it's meant to be. And the tram goes around the corner, and there's this massive, massive, I looking back on it, it had to be a cathedral or something. It was huge. And he's like, look, there's the church. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but you missed your 10 o'clock thing. So we'll see. I don't know if there's going to be one available. And then the tram pulls up a little bit, and like there's the sign with all the daily mass or all the Sunday masses scheduled. And sure enough, there's one starting in like 5 minutes, and then there's one starting in an hour. So I kind of talk him into like, okay, we'll do the later one. Like, let's go see the ocean first, and then like we'll come back. But we don't want to go in all rushed right now, and this, that, and the other. And obviously, I was just making stuff up because I didn't actually want to go. So he ends up going with it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I feel comfortable with this. Like, they're not gonna want me. Like, I'm just so against this. Like, no, they're not gonna want me. And the tram thing goes around the corner of the church, floor to ceiling, in this massive thing, probably 3 stories high, is a banner saying all are welcome. Are you kidding me? Like, nothing can come out of my mouth and not get contradicted. Okay, we'll do the next one, but let's go to the ocean first. So we go to the ocean, and it's only a few minutes away. When we're out there, I'm John, like, how can you say you're closer to God in a building? I don't get that. Like, this is nature. This is where the beauty is. Like, don't you see the patterns? Don't you see the glory? And he's like, yeah, I do see it here, but I've got to go to mass. Like, and if you can't see it at mass, that's okay. But like, I see it in a special way there. I got to go. And I just word tricks, word tricks, word tricks. I'm trying to miss the train back. Like, I glanced at the schedule. I know what we're supposed to do. And it's getting to that time, and he's like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, okay. And I'm walking super slowly. And oh, look at this. Oh, look at that bird. And then it was like a cartoon, right? Like, the cloud was on top of my head, clear blue day. All of a sudden, there's like this cloud on top of me, just pouring down rain. I'm from Seattle. I can deal with some rain. I'm not going to run to that bus. Eventually, we get to the bus. John gets on, puts his money in. I go to put my money in the little thing, and the bus driver puts his hand over the coin slot, stares me right in the eyes, and says, we've been waiting for you. And I'm just like, what is going on? This is weird. Okay, fine. You don't want my quarter? I'll keep it. And then we finally get back to the church. Okay, I'll go in. And these church doors were big. Okay. And they weren't like double doors. When you opened those doors, this very dark room had a lot of light pouring in it. There was no way you could go in and then turn around and go out. So I'm in. We go to sit down, and it's like, everybody's queued up at back, and John's like, come on, it's gonna start. Like, let's go. Fine, I will sit here. I have sat through these before, pulling out all my 5 wing intellectual preparation to take apart every single thing they put in front of me. I am ready to go. And it's in Mandarin. The entire service is in Mandarin. I could not understand a single word that was being said at all, except for a couple of Latin phrases I probably picked up on. So there I am, stuck in this building, just like forced to be with God. And it's very hard to explain what happened in that church. To be honest, like, I don't fully know. I just know that that was not just a moment full of grace, but like I got the full hour's worth and then some. But as I was sitting there in what I now know is the liturgy of the word, which I clearly wasn't paying attention to because it was all in Mandarin, the stained glass windows on the edge of the church had the gifts of the Holy Spirit on them. So things like faith and charity and hope, and love. And I could only see like 1 or 2 of them from the pew when I first started. They're like the big pillars, and I don't understand how it worked. But the more I spent time just like meditating on the words that I could see in those windows, the more of them I was able to see. And something was growing inside of me. And it wasn't scary. And it wasn't an intellectual debate to be won. It was just this thing that was true. And then people started doing a lot of standing and kneeling, and I wasn't really going to do that. But then there was this moment, and I'd been meditating for probably half an hour, 45 minutes at this point, just kind of trying to sit there quietly and have people ignore me. But there was this moment, which I now know to be the moment of consecration, where the priest holds up that consecrated host that really is the body and blood of our Lord. But I didn't know. I thought it was just a little cracker or something. But what I did know, in a way that like changed every second of my life that followed, is that Jesus was real. Like, he was a real person in time and space who literally came to earth and spent time here and died here to save the world, yes, but to save me specifically. And I had back pain and chronic things I was dealing with, but I actually fell to my knees and started crying. And it wasn't like bad tears. It was like somebody, it's like the way you can cry when you know you're safe and somebody's got their arms around you and they've just got everything taken care of, and like it's okay to be fragile in a way that it's not usually okay to be. And I just knew. And I can't explain how I went from completely doubting to absolutely knowing, but I did. And it was awesome in that very literal definition of the word, right? Like mind blowingly awesome. And then it got really, really weird, really, really quickly. The mass is over. Go in peace. Thanks be to God. And everybody's like, I don't know, they said it in Mandarin, but everybody's standing up. And then, like, I expect people to be walking to the back of the church and trying to get in their cars and go home. But people are like walking up to me saying that, like, they saw something happen and can they touch me? And I'm like, get me out of here. So we do. Out the big doors. Super happy to have that. Like, I'm changed. It's good. But that at the end got really intense and really weird. And then people on the street start walking up and wanting to touch me. And then I'm like, okay, like, we got to go somewhere not here. So we did. And the day wrapped up with me being on an airplane. And it was honestly too much. Like, it felt like too much in that moment. I am very, very certain that I ordered a couple of drinks and like tried very hard to fall asleep on that flight home. But I couldn't ever unlearn that Jesus loved me that much. And I probably tried pretty hard to break the relationship. Just my own brokenness at the time. Like, it's really scary to be loved that intensely. And so comforting on the one hand, but terrifying on the other. So back to Seattle, and like, I'm not going to lie about it. Like, okay, I believe in Jesus, but I still don't believe in this organized religion thing at all. And I just kind of tried to stay with that and figure out what that meant. And I'd pick up the Bible and try and read it. And like the Gospels, those were easy to read. And okay, like I'm able to do this. Other books of the Bible, I wasn't feeling it. Like, still pretty ready to say, like, okay, there's probably some truth in here, but I still think this is a bunch of books that people put together to support their philosophies and keep people in line and whatnot. And then lots of crazy things in life happened. One of them being that I moved to Texas on a bipolar whim of just like, okay. One day I'm living in Washington State, the next I'm living in Texas, and that's okay. I'm an ENFP, that's how I roll. Um, but I met a guy and we started spending time together. And not very much time after that, I found myself pregnant. And his family was Southern Baptist. And they wanted us married. And I didn't have a lot of fight in me. And okay. And so we'd spend a lot of the weekends up at their church or up at their house. And part of staying the weekend at their house was going to church. So I spent some time in this little Southern Baptist church and a lot of really, really nice people, but not exactly what I was looking for. Like I knew for sure this wasn't my home, but it did kind of start me. I don't know. I started reading more, and I picked up the Bible with newer consideration. Some of those books, like particularly the epistles, those letters to the different peoples in different areas, those started to be easier. And I had a very complicated pregnancy. I spent a lot of time in the hospital. I had a lot of time to read. So I just kind of started researching. And some of it was the Bible, some of it was other books. Ended up reading some of the church fathers along the way, even though that's not what I would have called them at the time. But it was just this intellectual inquiry as much as it was more intellectual inquiry than like a true quest for faith. But that's how I spent a lot of my time, with my big old belly and that amazing baby inside. And then one day, that amazing baby wasn't inside anymore. And he joined us in this world. And my darling Andy, who you guys are going to get to meet at some point in the not so distant future, I think. I got to hold him in my arms. And I just knew, like, the only thing that had ever been clear was that Jesus loved me, that I could not love this child enough unless I got myself baptized. Like, that was a requirement to be the mom that he needed me to be. So I think it was the next weekend, possibly the one after that, but like in less than a fortnight, I was up at the church, that little Southern Baptist church in Texas, like, hey, Pastor Andy, I can't promise to be a Southern Baptist, but I know I have to get baptized. Like, can we do that? By the grace of God, he said yes. And I was baptized. And I didn't, as a Catholic, I would say sacraments are effective. I didn't have that language at that point. It felt like magic. Like, I didn't know how much I had been carrying with me. I didn't know how really, really broken I was. Like, I knew psychological things and diagnosable things, but those were pretty managed by that point. I don't know how, like, truly, truly broken I was. And part of the story in Seattle that I skipped over is that I'd actually gotten pregnant then too. But a bunch of the medicine that I was taking was anti-epileptic drugs. I was taking them for off-label uses, according to the doctor. But those drugs are really, you're not supposed to get pregnant on them. And I believed all the doctors when they said, you can't be pregnant on this medicine you're taking. Your only option is to get an abortion. And they didn't call it that. They called it a termination of pregnancy, or a TOP. And I listened to them and I followed the medical advice because I was still clinging to intellectualism at that point. Big equation in the sky, but I didn't know Jesus yet. And I really thought I was doing the loving thing. But the moment that happened, my soul got ripped in half. Like, ripped in half in a way that I knew hurt and I knew carried tears with it and I knew had baggage with it, but I did not fully comprehend how broken I was until I wasn't. And I still feel bad about that day, right? Like, I will always regret that day, but I no longer have any shame or any guilt. I know that I'm forgiven, that I'm whole, that I am loved, and that I was given a chance to do it right. And once I was baptized, everything changed. All those books of the Bible that I couldn't get through before, like, I could read them now, and there was different meaning. There was this gift of how to read them and not get stuck. I mean, there were still some books of the Bible where I was getting stuck. Like, I it's not like I was getting through Leviticus without issues at this point, right? But I learned to read it as one story rather than a whole bunch of different people voicing their opinions. And there is a true grace that was given to me at baptism that let me hear the message behind the specific words of whatever translation I had in front of me. And man, I had this little baby to love. And love is sacrifice. And when you're sacrificing out of love, that's being with God, right? Like, it just all came together so beautifully. And every day I spent with this child, I grew to love him and God more. And I really got better at being grateful for my life and all these facets in my life. And as grateful as I wanted more. And like I was on fire now. Like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. So I start researching everything. Kind of knew that Baptist church wasn't for me. But like, I don't know if it was just that building and that community, or like, what do Baptists actually believe? I don't know. Let's ask Google. So I started doing all this research. And it was very challenging to find super cohesive statements of what anyone believed, right? Like, if you looked at what a Methodist church in Seattle was saying and doing, it wasn't necessarily the same as a Methodist church in Texas, wasn't necessarily the same as a Methodist church in pick your other geographic location. And some were more consistent than others. Some had things where I was just like, I don't think this fits. And there's only one site I couldn't get to load, and that was actually the Vatican website. I don't know why, but that page would start to load and then it would stop. Like, I'd never get past just that little header. The page would not load for me for like literally years. I could not get any of those documents to actually load. Or I think probably the USCCB at that point too, but I wasn't really interested in Catholic. My mom had taught at a Catholic university. I'd gone to Catholic school, didn't have the greatest experience. Um, Certainly didn't hear Catholic and think like, oh, this is the loving community of people that are not judgmental and want to invite me in. Um, so I kind of already rejected Catholicism, but it just kind of became this intellectual quest. And I absolutely had my moments of pride. Um, but I kind of thought I figured out something that was more true than any one church or denomination was presenting to me. Whichever one I went to, there was like, oh, hey, I feel ya 90%, but there's this thing over here that's like, it doesn't, like, there was still something to pick at, right? And this goes on for a couple of years. And when Andy was about 3, his dad and I got divorced. and I ended up moving across the country to Indiana because of work. And I met I had this wonderful woman working for me at this small little company I worked for, and she was Catholic. And she wasn't like a little bit Catholic. She was like really, 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 really Catholic, but not in a way where she was pushing it on me, just in a way where like she knew every answer to every question I posed to her. And it was that kind of friendship work relationship where we could talk to each other. And I'd ask her questions and she would just have those answers ready. Right? Why can't you have dinner because you're going to church later? Oh, because what we're doing at Mass is holy. It's beautiful. It's this joining together. And part of that is being really ready and not just hungering in my soul, but I want my body to mirror that hunger for Christ in my soul with true physical hunger and be absolutely ready for nothing else to be in there except for Christ. I'm like, wow, that is a lot to expect from a cracker. But if that's what floats your boat, and she was good with it, like she just kept taking it. And then, life kind of ended up taking us introducing other people in our lives. It wasn't like we weren't in each other's lives, but we weren't super in each other's lives as much. Some of that had to do with me having a different job. But then I ended up dating a guy from Chicago, and he was Catholic too. He wasn't super, super, super Catholic like this girlfriend of mine, but he was Catholic enough that, when he heard me talk, because I wanted to talk about this stuff. I'm an ENFP. I'll philosophize all day long about what's true, what's not, this, that, the other. And he's just like, do you even know what Catholic is? Like, I don't know if I can explain it very well, but he gave me this book, Catholicism for Dummies. Okay, I'm dating the guy. I guess I'll believe what he said. It's not like I can get the Vatican website to load for me and actually read real documents. Catholicism for Dummies it is. And I start reading this book, and everything I thought, not everything, but a lot of what I thought Catholics believed wasn't what Catholics actually believed. It was this weird, like Saturday Night Live making fun of it stuff. And the actual explanations were ridiculously close to this super clever thing that I thought I had figured out. Taking the best bits of all of them and turning it into my own thing. It's Catholic. I I ended up being Catholic without ever wanting to put that label to it. And like, I think you guys have heard that saying, you make plans, God laughs. Like, I love that God has a sense of humor. And I hope I make him laugh as much as he makes me laugh. Because remember back at the beginning, I wouldn't call him God. It had to be a big equation in the sky. Like, there are so many things where I struggled with language more than truth. And finding the right vocabulary is this amazing thing that like lets me level up and just get so much more out of every moment of life, right? Okay, so maybe I am Catholic. That's a whole thing I hadn't considered. Okay, friend of mine. So if I think I might be interested in Catholic, like, how do I do this? Well, just come to Mass with me and I'll introduce you to people. And apparently, there's this very rigid process that, depending what time of year you show up, could take up to almost 2 years to actually let you officially join the church. And honestly, that felt kind of exclusionary, and I wasn't super cool with it. Like, there was a whole lot of, why do I have to wait? Especially at the very beginning. Because I showed up shortly after Easter. which meant I had this summer of inquiry sessions, which were just very informal sessions, hanging out in this couple's house. Um, and they would do readings and say prayers and have casual conversations, but it wasn't the like deep academic, I really want to go for it kind of stuff. Um, but I just kind of stuck with it and went with it and picked up some books along the way. And then one day I discovered there's this thing called the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And for all the inconsistencies that I found somewhere else, there's this book. It's got like, here's kind of everything we believe, not only listed out and written, but with source citations and footnotes and cross referenced like crazy. And then I just started reading everything. And there was part of me that was really in there out of love of Jesus. Like, I know when I go to Mass, I feel better. That was true. But it was also true that I'm a debater and every argument's got to have a flaw in it. And one of the things that great debaters do is they can find the weak link in your armor or in your argument and start ripping it apart. And you just start tugging on that one thread and the whole thing's going to fall down, right? I tried to pull on every thread. I learned how to show love better, and I couldn't find a way to make the argument not work. It didn't matter what question I posed or where I started. It was like this beautiful diamond, and it didn't matter which facet I was sitting on. The truth was just refracted and amplified through every other facet of the diamond. And I spent a long time going through RCIA and learning that we all kind of come into this at different places. Like I probably should have been looking at like a master's degree in theology or something. Like that's really what I was after. Um, but what I really needed was RCIA with the people who were also joining the church because they loved their new spouse to be so much that they were willing to join the other person's faith. And we had very different questions, but we made some amazing friendships. And I really got welcomed into this community. And I got to experience following, which isn't a thing I was used to. Like it was very weird for me to be told to trust the process and actually trust the process. But there are some beautiful rites that happen during this initiation process that I'm not going to spoil for anybody that might be interested. But there were so many times where they were like, just show up. It'll be more amazing if you just trust it. And like the six in me is like, no, I'm going to go research it. Weirdly enough, I don't know how, like, God has definitely got control over my internet connection because when there is information that I want that I'm not ready to have yet, he just hides it from me and the pages won't load. The search engines won't find them for me. I have the name of the right. I've got all this information. I know these books. I should be able to find this. Not only can I not Google the stuff, the library's having construction done, like all sorts of just random stuff. Okay, fine. I'll trust the process. But I'm so glad I did because at the Easter Vigil, I got confirmed and I got to receive communion for the first time and I found my home and my family. And it's everything. It's like not to be too cliche, but it's the source and the summit of what I've been searching for my entire life. And it's the foundation of everything else. And it's just it's just beautiful and amazing. And I know I'm a better human being for it. I know I'm a better mom for it. And I know my capacity for love just grows the more I grow. And I don't think I have it all figured out. I very much acknowledge the fact that I am practicing my faith, and I'm looking forward to the day that I get everything right. Thank God for confession. That is such an amazing gift. Um, every one of the sacraments, actually. It's like sometimes people will say, like, which one's your favorite? Like, whichever one's going on right now. Um, but it's this true gift. And I found a lot of amazing things in a lot of these other denominations that I really loved. Um, and I'm not going to say that any one of those is specifically wrong. I'm going to just say that what I found in the Catholic Church is more complete, and it's a more whole answer to support me in my brokenness as I go through life. And I need that extra help. There may be people that don't need that sacramental help as much as I do, but I need it. I rely on it. That's my saving grace, literally. Um and that kind of feels like that would be the end of the story. In 2009, I sprained my wrist. And Andy was still pretty young then. So I continued to do the things that moms do. Carried my kid around, whatever, cleaned up to the extent that an ENFP would. Um, played with him, carried stuff. I did not let that wrist heal. And I ended up with something called complex regional pain syndrome, formerly known as causalgia, formerly known as RSD, but it's a disruption of the nervous system. And basically, you get this permanent pain signature just burned into you, and your sympathetic nervous system reacts really, really, really extremely to things that may or may not be real. Um, my arm can easily swell up to twice its size. The skin gets pulled so tight, it becomes almost translucent. There were weeks where I couldn't move my right arm at all. Um, I used up all my FMLA time, lost my job, huge medical bills. I was lucky. My dad knew a little bit about this condition. So early on, I was really kind of leaning on him with it. I remember talking with him in the car one day and just like really early on, just like, what does this mean? Like, is this like cancer? Am I going to die? He's like, well, the reason people die from complex regional pain syndrome isn't because of something like cancer where the disease is what kills them. It's because they can't handle the pain. They take their own life. I remember joking in a very flippant way, like, haha, I guess it's a good thing I got myself Catholic because that's not allowed anymore. And it was a joke in that moment. But that was the reality. My faith kept me alive to take care of Andy in some really, really troubling times. Um, and my church was amazing in terms of the support they gave me, whether it was food or driving me to medical appointments or just like being a single parent, you need a lot of help anyway, which is very hard for me to admit. Being a single parent with a disability, even more so. And I learned some really good lessons about humility and about what really matters in life. But I also discovered this amazing gift. Like suffering, I think I heard it at a Stations of the Cross prayer. It's like, what's the difference between pain and suffering? Suffering comes from that capacity to ask, why me? And I did. I spent a lot of time saying, why me? Why is this happening to me? And I don't know that I got a complete answer. But I know that a key part of the answer was because it was an opportunity for me to unite that suffering to Christ's suffering on the cross and help save the world. And that sounds like something out of a superhero novel or something like that. It's not me. It's all God. But in this small way, I could make a difference, and having something to do with that pain and a meaning for it makes it not easy, not not painful, but it makes it manageable. And then God took my life in this just amazing way. I could never have scripted this for myself, because I did have to go through a lot of therapy and I did have to spend a lot of time at home. And I am so fortunate to have family and friends who were there to support me. But I also figured out that I could work from home and I could actually support us working from home. So when Andy got diagnosed with bipolar, his first year of school, and that ended up being a struggle and needed me to have him home, I was able to homeschool him right next to me. And it just, and I would never have found the people I'm working with now. Like, it just turned into this amazing winding journey. And I don't know that it's helpful for me to go through all the details, but all I can say is it's just this constant outpouring of gifts and blessings that are so much more than I could ever have created in my own imagination. Like, it's the life I'm living now is so much better than what I could ever have imagined on my own, that all I can be is grateful and completely in love with my savior. And that's, I guess, chapter 1 of my story.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the vulnerability and the experience that you've had. You even mentioned the element of you felt so loved, it was terrifying. It's almost like there's this fear when you've been loved so deeply to the core. It's scary because you feel like someone sees you, and especially as if you're a person who puts up a mask or puts up a wall or tries to find ways to not have people see all of you for whatever reason, whether it's because you think they may not like all of you, or that there are certain flaws you're not even okay with. So, yeah, you don't even want someone else to know because then it's like, can they handle all of that? But also, sometimes not having intimacy feels safer, but then you realize that the love that God gives you is so pure and so good, and so it makes you whole, and it also enlightens you to this purpose and path that was meant uniquely for you. And I'm glad that you were able to embrace that love and embrace all the gifts and all the struggle and all the happiness that comes with the full complexity of human life. And so, yeah, I feel like, yeah, your story is really interesting because it's like you're a person who really likes to critically analyze things. So you do have this desire, like at the beginning, to be a little bit mischievous, or like to kind of like go like, how can I poke a hole in this? Just because it's easier to poke a hole in this and not be terrified of all the love you're feeling, because okay, if I can prove it wrong, then I don't have to feel all this scary love. But you couldn't really prove it wrong, and it was like, oh, now I have to feel all this great scary love. So much love, it's so scary. But it's a beautiful scary. It's like, wow, this is, it feels so good. It almost challenges all those beliefs of feeling not good enough for love on the deepest level. And I think that might be a little bit of the scaredness. It's like, am I even good enough to receive this?
I
That
mean, the thing is, I don't have to worry about am I good enough, because I know for certain that I am not. Like, 100%, I am not good enough. The only reason that I have any chance or hope of salvation is because of Christ and what he did. The very, very, very best that I can do is accept that gift and offer it back. And it is like there are moments that are still terrifying. Um, but it's that awesomeness and like how small I am compared to how amazingly beautiful God is and big and wonderful and just literally awesome. But I don't I don't have to be scared that I'm not good enough because 100% I'm not. 100% I'm not, and that is the most freeing realization in the world.
Mm.
Um but I also think that if I had heard those words before I were baptized, before I actually knew what this love felt like, before I'd made a conscious decision to enter into this relationship, it would have sounded as if the church were saying no to me rather than saying, yes, of course, I've got you.
Mm.
And it's amazing how those same words can sound so different with that perspective of grace. And that's when people say faith is a gift, I don't think it's like God's up there saying like, "Oh, I'm going to give you this gift and I'm going to give you this gift." But no, 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 no. It's like, are you ready to handle this love? And I'm always here. I'm always willing to give it to you, but I'm going to take you seriously when you tell me you're not ready. Right? Like, yeah, but there definitely initially some fear and lots of lots of 5 strategies to go in for the debate. And sometimes it's like a 5 defense strategy, but sometimes it's just like that's the fun thing to do, right? Like
Mhm.
I happen to live in the same town where Notre Dame University is. It is excellent to go out and have beer with my Catholic buddies and just like get into it. Like let's go. Um
Yeah.
yeah, the debates are fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just want to say thanks so much for sharing that story, Sarah. It was really just beautiful and inspirational, like the ups and the downs, and finding peace and meaning, and the various forms of suffering you've had, and everything. And you've kind of inspired me to go deeper into my faith and get more serious about it, and a little more like academic. Um, and everything. So it was just really great, and a really like interesting journey about how it seemed in a way kind of like almost God was using all the things you're trying to use to like get away from him, like your intellectualism, to actually kind of soften your heart in the first place and open the door to get in, um, and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a beautiful, humbling um, journey and everything. But yeah, I think it really shows how when you have an open heart, what it's really like. Because they say that when you're near God, the sign that you're near God is peace and joy. So it seems you're really experiencing that on a really incredible level.
So thank you, Sarah, for coming out. Take care.